2 days after the Prime Minister visited Saudi Arabia and spoke of the importance of Britain's economic and diplomatic ties with the kingdom, it's now been granted the right to host the 2034 FIFA Men's World Cup. England's Football Association has said today that it has had assurances from Saudi authorities that LGBT England fans will not be arrested while attending the tournament. Mike, you're a sort of football fan. You support Arsenal, don't you?
When I have the time, Ian, yes.
Are you uncomfortable about this?
I mean, it's putting two and two together, isn't it? And not necessarily coming up with the right answer. That's how I perceive this. Keir Starmer was speaking with international partners regularly on a daily basis, and then there's going to be decisions made the day after or the day after that on many things. It doesn't mean that Keir Starmer's waded in on it. So, you know, that's my view on it. In terms of them holding it and LGBTQ plus safety, that's really important. And there does need to be that modernisation to ensure that there is that safety there. And that is a concern.
Reem?
I would also add that it's not just LGBTQ plus people that are at risk in Saudi Arabia, it's also many other groups, and we know that, for example, racism is incredibly rife in Saudi Arabia. I've got cousins that live there, so I sort of hear first-hand experience of what it's like. I do agree with Mike. I think it's wrong to sort of suggest in any way that Sir Keir Starmer has anything to do with it physically. However, hosting the Saudi royal family with the British royal family absolutely does signal that we are friends, that we are allies, and that it is perfectly okay to hold a football game.
But we are. Well, and have been for many, many, many years.
Absolutely. And I think it's absolutely right that we do ensure that people that do travel to Saudi Arabia are going to be safe. I am also of the view that we shouldn't be meddling in other countries' domestic policies. I'm absolutely against the way that they've treated LGBTQ people. I'm against how they've treated women. I think that it's not our business to deal with them, and I think we've got a lot of problems domestically that we need to deal with first.
OK, Will?
Well, I just checked for Arsenal fans. They're 1-0 up against Monaco.
we don't mention that.
But look, I mean, you can't help but agree. I mean, I think that the whole question of money in sport.
Can I just throw something else into this before you go on? Because in opposition, Keir Starmer was very critical of the Saudi regime and said all sorts of things about how he wouldn't do this, he wouldn't do that, wouldn't do the other. And yet, within his first 6 months, he goes to Saudi Arabia. And obviously, I mean, realpolitik is part of being Prime Minister. You have to deal with people that you might not want to. But within 6 months?
I know. I find it, it is tricky. And I'm not entirely certain, because the UAE hosted the kind of World Cup just recently, and to come back to the Middle East and all the problems about playing in 35, 40 degrees centigrade and all the rest of it kind of so quickly, I thought was a kind of... I think the authorities were craven here. You could have Saudi Arabia maybe give it another decade or 2 decades and give them some time also to kind of put in place mild progress towards liberalisation
they are progressing, aren't they?
They're making that. It is true. So I think that it would have been. So the questioner is saying, that actually. The British government should use its kind of influence, such as it has actually, and it's because football is independently managed. It's not a kind of the state doesn't have that much influence.
Well, it will do soon with the football regulator.
Well, indeed.
Yeah, but that'll be just UK provenance. It won't be international provenance. I do get it, and I do think that. It would have. I think it might have been better to have frowned rather than to kind of gleefully say yes.
I hate to correct you twice, but it was Qatar which hosted the World Cup, not the UAE.
I beg your pardon. I so beg your pardon.
Yes, this
is
an
LBC
issue.
Verify here.
The person of Iain Dale.
Joe.
It's not just Saudi Arabia, and obviously Qatar. We've had, Olympics in Beijing and Russia, and I'm not sure that any government is able to influence the human rights policies of host countries. The issue, I suppose, has to be whether there should be a boycott of any country that offends our own sensitivities. And I think, clearly, when it comes to
where do you draw the line, though? I mean, let's say Iran got the next Olympic Games. I mean, that would be quite a ethical issue.
I think if they're actively hostile to the United Kingdom, that's where the line is drawn. And it's Saudi Arabia actively actively an ally with the United Kingdom. I think Iran and China and Russia are where I draw the line. Anywhere else, I mean, we'd have to be boycotting the entire world, and that's just not feasible.
We have to be careful to separate politics from sport.
Yes,
remember.
yes, you are
That
right.
is really important, because otherwise you get bogged down on a daily basis when you're playing in different countries and taking the joy away from sport.
I mean, interesting. Russia hosted the World Cup only 6 years ago. Would we boycott a Russian-hosted World Cup now? I suspect we might.
We would, yeah.
And I mean, interesting, the Olympics, you had Russians labelled something else, able to take part, and Ukrainians. It is a very complex issue, I think. I'm not sure that you can take the politics out of sport, and it's becoming more and more complex.